And we are live. Welcome, everyone. My name is Julio from the Instantly team. At Instantly, we have more than 35,000 B2B companies sending cold emails online in the inbox. And here we have the great Mitch Clayton. He is the CEO and founder of Float, a really interesting lead generation agency. They've been working with us for already a while. So I'm super pumped to be sharing some of their secrets. They have generated more than 5,801 meetings in just the past 12 months. He was also telling me that they closed a 500,000 pounds sale, and they will be sharing all their secrets on how they did that. How are you doing today, Mitch?
Yeah, really good, Felipe. And yeah, it's like a full circle moment. We've been working together for quite a long time now. You've seen the agency go from, maybe something like 10 staff to like 40, which is what we are now. So yeah, really excited and looking forward to sharing some stuff today with the audience.
Yeah, amazing. I'm super pumped to hear that. So how about we start with a little bit on your background story. Maybe you can share with people how did like your agency start, what were you doing before, so people have a bit of context on who are the people behind the agency.
Yeah, so I'm first of all, I'm 29 right now, so
Oh wow,
I'm closer to 30 than what I would
nice.
like to be. But I actually started as an SDR when I was 18, and this was when a lot of the guys in the space now probably was never even thinking about the space. But I've literally spent a decade in this space that we're in right now. I've seen it transform a lot over the past years, especially with the usage of technology. But yeah, the start for me was very much, a traditional SDR, working inside a marketing agency, cold calling a lot of people on a daily basis. That was kind of like what the start led for me. After spending 5 to 7 years like working my way up the sales ladder inside businesses around the UK, I became really good at crafting outbound email campaigns. And this was again still when it was quite manual. So we're talking maybe like 7 years ago now. I first of all started to do that because I got a better response rate from cold calling, and I really just did not like cold calling whatsoever. It was something which I really hated. So I became really good at building email campaigns, and then it got my boss off my back because he was like, "You're quite good at these emails. Yeah, keep it up." Whereas my colleagues were just smashing 70 to 80 calls out on a daily basis, and that was pretty much the start of Flow. It really started, kind of unofficially 7 years ago with me really kind of obsessing over the craft. Flowed was then officially formed 5 years later. So 5 years ago from now, and now we're here. We turn over roughly about 3 to 3.5 million in ARR, GBP. Roughly 40 team members, and a thriving client base throughout the world. So yeah, it's been a journey, let me tell you that.
Yeah, I love it. I have to say that you're one of the few agencies that has been able to scale so smartly internationally. And what I mean with this is that you guys have an office in North Macedonia where you have your operational team. So you're very lean operationally wise. And then you have your offices in the UK as well, where you guys are from. So you probably have some more key stuff there. And then you also operate from the US. And for everyone, lead generation, we know how important that market is. So the fact that you're just so smart about like where to hire and when and where to open your offices, I find it very interesting.
Yeah.
So I think, are there like, how do you come to those decisions? Like, how do you decide at the end? Okay, this is where we're going to hire. This is where we're going to open. Like, do you have any intel before doing that? Because I've been doing outbound for 10 years, and when I saw where, like, how you guys were structuring all of this, I was like, well, this is genius.
Yeah. So for every one decision we get right, we probably get about 5 wrong. So just to kind of put that out there. So, and this is again, it's a game of reps. You get 3 or 4 things really right, and you get 5 to 8 things really not right in a way. One of the reasons of why the business is where it is right now is the people inside it. There's like, again, there's 40 people inside our business. It's not just me. And we all owe the credit internally to the people that drive the business forward every single day. It really, really is like a team effort. Seeing those kind of like lead numbers which we've delivered, that is an operation, a team of people working their asses off day in day out for our clients. Now, our approach, and one of the greatest things about outbound email or just outbound campaigns in general is the global approach. That campaigns can be delivered. We run campaigns throughout the world, and that's what is really, really exciting us at the moment. We've got campaigns operating in different languages. We've got campaigns operating for some enterprise clients across like 5 or 6 different territories, really growing that AOV for accounts like that. So that's the really exciting time in our journey where we're at the moment, being able to kind of centrally service an account via lots of different markets, being account managed by one team, but the actual service function, being operated in different countries. So yeah, it's an exciting time. We opened our first US office in September. It's gone really well so far. We're signing clients every single month in the US office, we pretty much manage the European client base from the UK currently.
Amazing. Love it. Here we're getting some love from the chat. By the way, guys, we'll be answering your questions live, so feel free to ask your questions on LinkedIn or YouTube or wherever you are tuning in from. Awesome. So let's start with the main question. So how do you book over 5,000 meetings in 1 year? So what was your main strategy? Any insights that you would like to share on how you achieved that?
Yeah. So as with anything, most campaigns should look a bit different from the next campaign if your targeting is right, if you really understand the client. One of the things which I would say is the most common denominator that all flow campaigns will typically have is a really strong offer. And this is something which we really, really push clients for, to really educate them on how important having a strong offer is to a client. Sometimes when you think of the words free value, some clients might think, oh, I don't want to give anything away for free. I don't want to devalue the service. I don't want to make ourselves look cheap. And this is the common battles that you have with clients on a daily basis, because we all know as kind of outbound experts that leading with value generates much more conversations, helps get your foot in the door, and is just general like good marketing practice. So sometimes when you have a client which is like, no, I don't want to do that, it's like, well, if you want the best performance possible, you kind of have to do that in a way. If not, maybe there's a better agency for you that will bow to your tune and do what you want. But we try to be as strong as possible with our values of, if you want us to run a campaign for you and it to have maximum performance, let us have the keys and let us have as much control as we kind of know what we're doing.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Yeah, I completely agree with you that offer is the strongest component out of a campaign. I think every time I've seen someone doing cold outbound and just trying to use AI to improve their campaigns or like the data sources, like sure, those things help, but just offer is so important. So I'm very happy to hear that there are people like you that they try to educate people on the importance of shaping better their offer. And at the end of the day, one thing I really like about cold outbound is that you have some people that can be very reluctant on changing their offer for a specific niche, or like they're not willing to do a promo, like you said. But then you send a campaign and you show them that what they're trying to pitch is just not working, and you're saving so much time, not just for yourself, but for the client as well, right? You're telling them, look, we targeted 20,000, 30,000, whatever people, like we target your entire market. We barely got any replies, right? And the reason is very simple. We're landing on the inbox. It's just there is no interest for what you're trying to pitch, right? And then you save them time spent potentially on ads, on SEO, and we all know how long SEO can take. It can take 6 months or more for you to see results. But you have just sent a campaign for a client in just a couple of days or weeks, and that is just you're just doing them a favor at the end of the day. So yeah, I fully agree with you on that one. Awesome. So Can you also tell us a little bit about that cold email that helped you close 500,000 in one deal? 500,000 is it's just a crazy amount. Like
Yeah.
I'm very curious to hear about like the full experience. Like how did you
Mm,
first? How do you get someone interested? What kind of company was it? What
mm.
strategies did you use? I don't
Yeah.
think it was just luck. So what made it
It,
work?
no, it definitely wasn't luck. And so one thing which we learned maybe like mid last year, offers which work really well are compliance style offers with deadlines attached to them. So the client that we actually generated this opportunity for was a waste management organization, and the campaign had a very strong offering, but there was a compliance deadline that the target market had to do this certain service via a certain time, or they would be uncompliant and then would potentially face big fines, etc. You kind of get a gist of where our messaging is kind of going with that. So as a business, we started focusing on, okay, how can we go and sign more clients that have got offers around compliance, deadlines, certain time frames. Those style of that style of messaging performs quite well. And yeah, there was a very large deal closed off the back of that from one of these campaigns. We're actually going to be doing a video case study of this very soon, where we're actually going to be doing a live interview, something like this, with the actual client, where we can actually talk, about how that kind of started from start to finish. Because yeah, it's a great news story.
Nice, interesting. Yeah, I think that would be awesome. Like you know, I like seeing two kind of stories, to be honest. One of them is because all the time we hear people like, oh, like someone achieved X results, and this person is so successful, and so on and so on. But I think the most interesting part is how did all of that start, like from the very beginning, right? So I think that's where we can all learn from, and also what will be interesting as well, and you're kind of talking a little bit about it, at least for our space, is um, how and when did you fail, and what do you learn from that, right? So like, I think you mentioned very well, like when people are reluctant to have a very good offer, it's very unlikely they will see positive results. So obviously you learn from several cases where you probably fail with your campaigns, and then you realize, okay, good offer is very important in order for us to achieve results. And by the way, Alex Fine from LinkedIn is summarizing as offer and targeting equals success. Alex is a agency owner as well. We know him.
Yeah, I think another thing, just kind of touching on Alex's point there, a big thing is signing the right clients. Like,
Yeah.
I can't stress how the importance of like signing the right clients are. You might have a client in the right niche, but they personally might not be the right fit for you. They might like budget, they might be just not quite set up to run outbound campaigns and outsource them. They might not have the financial backing. So a big thing is what I've just, like I said, I've been in this space for a long time. I work with a lot of clients in this space. One of the most important parts is actually signing clients that you can deliver for. You can be way more aggressive on your terms which you offer them, which ideally should, for us, if we have a great client in front of us that we know 100% we can deliver performance, my communication to my AEs is, how can we make it as easy for them to sign up? Remove the barriers, forget the 12-month contract, forget the 100K in contract value. How can we make it easy for this account to sign up? Because when they start with us, they'll see the value that we can deliver. So that's just, again, the importance of signing the right types of clients.
Love it. So Manuela is asking here, I like the deadline offer example, and she's curious to hear if there are other examples for other industries that you've seen working.
It depends on the countries that you operate in. So so this campaign was a UK campaign and was for waste management. And in the UK, there's a kind of a framework that organisations kind of have to abide to up to kind of like, and they have a deadline up to a certain point. If not, they potentially could face big penalties. Now, it doesn't take a lot of research to go and find more things like that in countries that you operate in. A simple, ChatGPT prompt or question would probably get you what you need. Even that is a great campaign in itself. The waste management client that we're talking about now, they actually came to us. They was actually a referral to us. But what we're now doing is running campaigns for these new offerings to say, hey, we know that there is a compliance deadline by a certain amount of time. We feel really confident we can get you leads in that sector, XYZ. Let's get going in a way. So that's a really compelling proposition. And again, that would be what I think is a really good kind of like highly targeted campaign of having a small TAM and being really targeted with that message.
Love it. Beautiful. So here's a question from Ricky, guys, kind of related. So he's asking if you can share any advice on running campaigns for a brand new business that doesn't have any testimonials or case study. So how do you usually approach this?
So when I first started Float, we worked purely on performance and for free for every single client that we worked for. It was something similar. It was very much like a pay per meeting model, and the offer was something very similar to that. When we got to the point of where we had like 5 or 6 clients, and I could actually pay myself a wage, then I started to be like, okay, maybe we can attract retainers now. But at the start, it was very much pay for performance. The businesses that you work with at low risk, they should be the case studies that you're building from there. So yeah, again, going back to your offering, make your offering sound as attractive as possible, because if you are at the start, which it sounds like you are, you can't really, unless you've got a big dedicated like background of work, you might have to kind of just take a small loss for a month or even 2 months max, but think of the greater good of where you'll get to, and you'll get there quicker as well.
Right. Interesting. Love it. So how about we talk a little bit about deliverability? I think that's kind of like a hot topic right now. So how do you, so you mentioned, when we were promoting this webinar, we were telling people that you will talk a little bit about how you land in the inbox. And how do you make sure your emails land on the inbox 95% of the time? Like, how do you do that?
I think so. This is a testament to a few factors. Now, for an agency of ourselves, we obviously are doing a huge amount of outbound for a lot of clients. So the infrastructure that we have might not be applicable to every single person in this room because of the size of that. We have 3 people that actually work in our deliverability team, so we have a dedicated function for this because it's that important. And we're trying to be as detailed as possible when it comes to delivering emails. Again, this is a big kudos to Instantly as well. So we have an account manager, George, who we work with like very closely on a daily basis, where we're communicating about accounts, we're communicating, about deliverability, everything in between. But yeah, there's, with deliverability as well, there's a lot of FUD, and I do need to kind of like, if anyone in this kind of webinar now, you're probably on LinkedIn a lot, you're seeing a lot of stuff. There is a lot of FUD with outbound, especially deliverability. I just want you guys to know that half the time it's not actually as bad as what a lot of people make it out. If you have like good fundamentals with your campaigns, you've got an attractive offering, you're going out to people where the message is relevant to, you should be there or thereabouts okay, as long and you're following guidelines. You've got a relatively low amount of sends per domain. You're doing Google, Microsoft separately. You're matching up to the domain. You should be all right if you're following the guidelines. But again, the key thing is going back to your offering. Make sure the offering's good.
Yeah, that's kind of funny what you just mentioned, because you always have people, just complaining or like spreading fear. And it was funny. Last week we had a webinar where we were talking with a lead generation agency owner, and he's making up to $700,000 every single month. He's absolutely crushing it. And then I was reading the comments, the YouTube comments, because we're answering this stuff live, and one of them was literally, cold email is dead. we're like, we're literally just showing you results. Yeah, so it's kind of funny, but it is how it is. Um, okay, awesome. So, are there any other tools that you use to keep your emails out of spam? I know you mentioned instantly. You have an awesome team, 3 people. That is very, very impressive. So I have to say that anyone who definitely wants to stay on the inbox, they should definitely be working with you guys. That's definitely uncommon. Like I can see you guys are very committed into email deliverability. Having 3 experts is wow, very impressive. But are there any other tools, tactics that you guys use in terms of maybe copywriting, data verification, anything else you guys do that,
Yeah.
if you can share, of course?
Yeah. So first of all, our Microsoft strategy is different to Google. Our Microsoft strategy, we age domains for a longer time.
Yes.
Our copy is more shorter on Microsoft versus Google. Again, these things also change as well. So as of May 2025, right now, this might change in November 2025. We're trying to keep our ear to the streets with real life changes versus again just the LinkedIn noise. But yeah, we try and personalize our outbound strategy towards one, the domain provider that we're sending from, the domain provider who we're sending to, also the size of organization. So we have a client which is specifically sending to enterprise banking, they are predominantly 80-90% Microsoft users. That strategy for them is very kind of bespoke in terms of like we're really optimizing for deliverability there versus if we was targeting, I don't know, 10-man staffing companies for e-commerce, completely different. We can be a little bit different in a way. Our messaging can be a little bit different if there's a little bit less restrictions currently on stuff like that versus again like enterprise banking in a way.
Nice. Very, very interesting. So in terms of deliverability, I think like some people are just starting with cold email, and we've seen some questions like the one here from Michelle. They are at the warm-up stage. They're following the guidelines, and he's wondering if is it mandatory to follow a warm-up period of 15 to 18 days. What do you guys usually do there?
So we normally do roughly 21 days. But one thing which we have been using quite recently is we've been using some of the generic domains that instantly provide, which has been working pretty well. The reason for this is we don't want to wait 3 to 4 weeks to go live with a client if we're ready to go. So sometimes what we might do is for the first few weeks of going live, we might use some of Instantly's generic domains. If the clients are fine with that, and being pretty transparent here, we've not seen a huge difference in terms of performance. And the early stages of a new client relationship are the most important. Is the most important time for me. The start of a relationship is where relationships can be won or lost.
Yeah.
And I don't want to wait 4 weeks to deliver a lead for a client. I want to deliver it in week 1, jump on a call with them and be like, look how great this campaign is performing. Because the positive energy in the room is a lot different than if the first lead comes in like 7 weeks or 8 weeks. So getting off to a quick, and I'm talking now just from an agency to client relationship side, instantly bringing in that feature for us, well, not just for us, but for the client base has been really impactful. And at first, I was actually a little bit skeptical of that because I was skeptical to how clients would react to non-branded domains. But 8 times out of 10, it's been fine. They've not really bothered that much. And by the time we're actually in month 1, we might just rotate the actual branded domains in, and then we're on to a winner from there.
Nice, love it. Yeah, I'm very happy to hear that. And yeah, we found, before launching that product, by the way, for those who don't know, we at Instantly, we offer now the ability for people to use pre-warm email accounts and domains. But yeah, what we found with our study, like the reason why we launched that product is because we found out that domains that are age or older than 3-6 months, they tend to perform better. So basically, you don't have to wait for the initial 2-3 weeks in order to send cold outbound. And by the way, love it that you guys are waiting 3 weeks before sending cold emails. I think that's super safe. It speaks wonders about you and how you manage your clients, because the last thing you want is to burn their domains. So yeah, I think that's super smart. I mean, there are already workarounds to that as well. Like people could buy their own email accounts on their own domains. Like they don't have to like strictly do it with us, but we make it easier for people, right? So yeah, love it. All right, so how about we talk a little bit about like scaling and your process? So you guys probably send like a very, very large volume of emails, right? So I think it's kind of easy to, send like a few hundred. Like anyone could do that for free. Like you can just take like Google Sheet and mail merge that, right? But the moment you start bringing that to the thousands and consistently hitting the inbox, which is what you guys are doing pretty well, it's when things get a little bit tricky, right? So how do you send so many emails without losing quality, both in terms of replies, content? Like what do you guys do there in order to keep the quality up?
Yeah. So again, first of all, we've got a great team of people. So when you work with Flow, there's roughly 2 people that you work with. You have a dedicated campaign strategist who would be responsible for probably no more than like 6 to 8 accounts as an absolute max. And then you would also get a dedicated customer success manager. We actually have 2 customer success managers in our business, which are responsible for our full client base. And these 2 teams together are really like the backbone of the business. If you saw the work that goes in on a daily basis to keep our client base happy, but also sends going out on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, you'd be pretty impressed. Systems and processes are very, very important for this as well. When we contract with a client, we will typically contract to a certain amount of prospect sends on a monthly basis based on the requirements and needs of the clients. We've got some clients that are doing 30,000, 50,000 sends a month. We've got maybe some clients that are doing like 5,000 or something like that. They've got different needs, a different infrastructure need, and they might need something slightly different from one of our CSMs or strategists. But theoretically, what we try and do is at the start of every new week, we are working like 1 or 2 weeks ahead for the following week to make sure that we've got data loaded and ready to go in the campaign. And this way we can try and just stay ahead of the curve, really. And again, I can't take the credit for this. This is it is a whole team effort. And what's like really nice for the business at the moment is, a lot of the new ideas that are coming, they're not actually being generated from me. This is from people on the ground noticing changes. We should do this. We should change it to this way, etc. So it's a nice thing, when you've got people in the business who are forward thinkers, who can, make changes themselves versus every single thing just being done by me, because that really does slow the scale of a business down. If you only really moved and move the needle just when the CEO says. So yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And I can confirm that, like, we have, like you mentioned, this team member of ours, George, who is amazing. Like, I love working with him. And we follow a same, company culture, where we try to empower people and delegate. And by doing that, we can scale as a company, right? And George has even gone to your offices in person, and he only speaks wonders about you guys. I mean, we can see your office right now, the background of one of your 3 offices, so we can see that you guys have not only a great solid team but great taste. So yeah,
this had nothing to do with me, by the way.
And once again, there, all thanks to the team. So I think this is related to what we're talking right now. So this is a question from Uday. I have signed my first 10 clients. Congrats, Uday. If I'm looking to make my first hire, what position do you think I should look to hire first? So maybe we can answer his question and maybe share your own personal story as well. Like how do you structure your hiring and scaling?
So this all comes down to your ambition levels. Now, your ambition levels might be, I want to make a lot of money quick. So if that's the case, retain all the clients yourself and don't pay any salaries, and and you're going to make a ton of profit, which is great. You To caveat that, you might say, I want to run a small agency. I don't want a big agency. I want a small agency. I want 3 or 4 high quality operators who might work with me at like director or mid management level. And between us, we want to look after a small client base of like 30 to 40 accounts, something like that. That again could be an option. Now, another option could be, I want to grow a big agency. I want to build an organizational structure. I want to, have a HR team. I want to have an office here, an office there. That could be part of the plan also. So what I would actually say is like work backwards from where you actually are wanting to go. And then that will make decisions on when you think the right time to start hiring would be. Now, for me, I always had the ambition of I want to run a big agency. I really wanted to push myself as like, I've always had the goal of running. I've had the confidence that I could run a large company, and probably a stupid thing now because it's been really tough doing. And I wish I keep it really small now back in the day. But it's having that decision, and that definitely impacted my decision making in the early days. I actually overhired a little bit in the early days. I sacrificed a bit of profit in the early days, but that soon caught up when I've got like a really motivated and committed team, because that helps scaling with like, in the later days, and which is kind of where we're at now. Like some of our team members have been here like nearly 2 to 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Really like part of the furniture here, and are going to be a part of the next steps of the business also.
Right. And what is the criteria you use for hiring? So is there any cultural components you're after, or any mindset? Like, what is the criteria, like the main criteria or the main tree, whatever you think?
Yeah. So depending on the role, so obviously we've got a lot of different departments here. We've got an operation department, we've got a newly formed engineering department, we've got a sales department, marketing department, IT department, a lot of different things. I think first of all, the number one trait, and this is kind of one thing which an advisor once told me, is look at someone and think, could I spend a 2-hour train journey with this person? And like, not be wanting to leave them straight away. And if that's the case, maybe that could be someone that you could enjoy spending time with. And you're interested in what they do. Again, hard work and dedication for us is a non-negotiable. It's something that we expect from every single team member. But we also look for individuals that really want to push themselves for them. Like I don't want to tell someone to work hard. Someone needs to want to work hard for them, because they're trying to level up in their career. They're trying to, put food on the table for their family. They're trying to do something which is motivated to them. And yeah, that's an important thing when it comes to hiring.
Nice. Love it. Again, more love from the community from Tom. Nice to hear a calm voice for once. And I have to agree with Tom. I like, Mitch, how you're always sharing some, just all the time, some interesting knowledge. And yeah, we're all the time being bombarded all over social media and videos and everything. But like, yeah, it's very pleasant to hear your thoughts. All right. Here's a question from Amir. He's asking if maybe you can explain your roadmap for your cold email campaign. So what is usually your process? Like, where does it start from? I'm sure you guys have like, okay, we have launched this campaign. So first we're going to scrape leads, then we're going to verify them. Then what is usually that process for you guys?
So it actually starts a little bit before that in the sales process. So we have like an approval process from sales to service, where sales will typically need approval from service if that we can work with a client. Again, if we don't feel like it's a good fit, we'll say no to it. There might be ideas which are brought up through the sales process that we want to follow through with throughout service. So this is again why it's really important for sales and service to be closely aligned and closely linked. But typically when that process has been done, there'd be typically a kickoff meeting. We'd get the client to fill in some basic information, which is personal to them if we don't have it. We'll have a kickoff meeting. A lot of research will go in on our end, and this is where we are presenting to clients our ideas, our strategy. Again, if we need to kind of like be clear with the client, like this is what we think will be best, and if you want the best campaign performance here, we'd really appreciate you to give us the keys, because some clients don't always do that at the start. They might feel like they know more, and that's why it's really important to set boundaries at the start. Like I can live with a campaign not performing if I know it's been 100% our ideas. I can't live with a campaign not performing if it's not our ideas and we're just doing ideas that the client wants us to. And this is, again, you're in a performance-based game, so performance is very important. Now, I mentioned earlier that every campaign should be a little bit different to the next one based on the campaign setup. We use a lot of different data providers. 70% of campaigns that flowed power now are actually built on Clay. This is like a big kind of like transformational change over the past year, which has been really, really big for us. So we now actually have an engineering function inside Flowed, which is newly created roughly about 7 or 8 months ago, and we're actively hiring in this team at the moment. So it really depends in terms of the campaign is the honest answer.
By the way, we had some really good hires for some other agency owners in the past. So if you want to make an open call for anyone watching who is like very talented for a specific position, you can do it now, and you never know.
Yeah, we are actively hiring for GTM strategists from all experience levels, from the top right to the bottom. We offer really good training plans as well. Tom, the chap that just commented a minute ago, he's a new team member that's joining us in June, and yeah, this is like a big focus for us at the moment. So I'll leave a link towards the back end of the webinar if you're interested in applying for a role here.
Nice. Yeah, you can also ping the guys on LinkedIn. I think Mitch is very active on LinkedIn as well, so you can send him a DM. Maybe like an impressive, fully customized message, just to show that you really know what you can do. But
yeah, nice.
Love it. All right. So in terms of email deliverability, we all know that Outlook can be a little bit challenging sometimes. So how do you guys navigate that? What do you do in order to land on the inbox for Outlook?
So aged domains, shorter scripts. So first of all, like much shorter scripts. Like we might even do like 1-sentence things for Outlook. That's some of the stuff which we're kind of doing at the moment. Outside of kind of all the basic things of what you would class as like basic fundamentals, we do Outlook to Outlook also. So we do a domain match there, and we slightly do less volume from Outlook also in terms of per domain on a daily basis. Again, this changes and it's a consistent, and this is why we have a team of people. So because we're consistently testing the changes to see, okay, we made this change over the past 2 weeks. This is the increase in reply rate, and has that worked? Has that not worked in a way?
Nice, love it.
This is like an ever going challenge, by the way. I don't think anyone will ever say I have completely mastered deliverability. It is literally,
yes,
it's an ever changing landscape, and it's consistently ongoing.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I mean, for cold email, it's 2 components. It's that plus how do you get people to reply? I think like that's changing all the time, because when it comes to getting people to reply, you are pretty much fighting against like Netflix and Instagram and everyone out there, because you're fighting for people's attention, right? In order to like get them to engage with whatever you're showing them marketing wise. But yeah, I think it's those 2 like I've been doing Outbound for 10 years and it's a challenge every single year. And every year I hear cold email is dead and so on and so on. And by the way, if you're unsure about how to do cold email, and you think you have a great product, you should just hand that over to people like Mitch, because he already has nailed the process. So before confirming that a channel is dead, maybe you should first trust an expert. So
yeah, so sometimes, by the way, like one of the best things that you could do if you're running a business, or you're a sales or marketing director, there's a lot of time that goes into this. Like it's like I said, it's taken us like 5 years to get to this point where we're somewhat like think we're figuring things out a little bit. And again, it is an ever-going change, so it takes time. And I take my hat off for the some of the internal teams that do try and attempt to run campaigns internally at like the high volumes, because it's not easy, and like I said, it's a big time resource.
Yeah, makes sense. Question from Shifa. What common strategy mistake do you see companies making right now?
I don't want to bang the drum about offer too much,
Yeah.
but like I just think not having as an aggressive offer as like and it all comes down to how much is growing important to you, like how important is growing to you. To us, it's really important. Like every day is an important day of growth, so we're consistently like, our internal function, we're tracking leads on a daily basis. We know what a good day is, we know what a bad day is. If it's a bad day, I'm going home unhappy. If it's a good day, I'm going home happy anyway. So not necessarily that's a mistake, but it's an area of missed opportunity by not being consistently on the front foot. Sometimes you might need to spend a bit of money as well. And I'm not saying go and blast money throughout the do crazy stuff, but sometimes you might need to spend a bit of money to make some money, and that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you. Like, if we have to reinforce one idea, that's fine. Like, if you think that we have to reinforce the offer, I completely agree with you. I have the same situation when people, when I have to do podcasts and people ask me, so if you like the other day I had someone asked me on a webinar or a podcast actually, if you had a magical wand and you could just like immediately change something, what would it be as instantly? And I was thinking about it and I was telling the person, actually it would just be making sure people follow the fundamentals, like not going cheap on data, not going cheap on a sequencer, it doesn't mean spend a fortune on it, but like some people, they just choose the cheapest possible email verify, the cheapest possible data source, which is usually like a mass scrape of like Google Maps, like not segmented data at all. So you're just blasting everyone. And a lot of those people that you're going to be blasting, they're not interested in what you're offering. Then they're going to be reporting you as spam, and then you're going to be landing on the spam folder. So it's like a domino effect that you're creating out of just going too cheap on certain things. And it's the same with the lead generation agency. Like I heard some people like they just get burned working with very, very cheap lead generation agencies that they claim to know what they're doing, but it's just literally someone that watch a YouTube video and they're like, I have a lead generation agency right now, which is fine. Like you can start from scratch, but sometimes when you go too cheap on things, the outcomes might not be the right one. So that's something I usually reinforce to people. Like just stick to the fundamentals. Make sure that you double check everything. There is a lot of content out there. Like you are posting all the time on LinkedIn, like how to land the inbox. We have like more than 1,000 videos on YouTube. So it's just all the content is out there. So there's literally no excuse.
I would say as well, so the barrier to entry has gone up, especially in the past 12 months. And that doesn't mean the barrier to entry to send an email has gone up, but to get consistent performance has gone up. Like you do have to spend more money. Like when I first started the business, it was a lot easier to operate versus what it would be now. And and that's a good thing in a way, because back in the day you could be building campaigns. You could build a campaign in an hour and get it out. Whereas like now, because we want to be really detailed with the targeting, with like cross-reference checks. Okay, are these people actually who they say they are, or is that just being built in a certain way which we feel like that matters to the client's goal? How can we use certain personalization which is relevant towards the prospect? All of these things cost money. How can we, what are the tools that we're going to use for double verification, etc.? All these things cost money, but if it costs a little bit more money to keep a client happy and you provide a better service, it's worth it in the long run.
Yeah, I was telling this the other day to a friend of mine, where I was sending a campaign for a friend of mine, because sometimes I help people with cold email campaigns. Because we like to practice what we preach here instantly. We like to eat our own food, and um, basically he was getting results. He was very happy. So I was like, okay, that's the platform. Now you can use. Here are the keys of the Ferrari. So now you can drive on your own. Be careful. Don't push it too much. Don't scratch it. Like, it's just, you can do it now. And the very first thing I told him is, don't use your main domains for sending cold emails. Just that is the very first thing, like, that you should not do. And I swear to you, next week I get a message from my friend that his entire organization, he has a $5 million company, is about to be shut down because they use their main domain for sending cold emails. And I was like, oh, that's the very first thing I told you not to do. And that goes back to what I was telling you, that I totally understand why you reinforce people the offer, because I reinforce, again, like, the basics to people so many times. And even like people that are friends of mine that I tell them, like, face to face, don't do this. The very first thing is they do is like the opposite. But yeah.
People are just about coming around with the fact of, like, well, I say, like, the wider market is like not tracking open rates at the moment.
Yes.
Like, we still have to be like, we still have some clients where we're doing like maybe like the first month report and saying, can we track opens? Some clients now are getting on board with things like, because when you work with some larger businesses, reporting to them is really important, because they need to justify the spend to someone above, and that is typically done by like marketing reporting. So the fact of not being able to like track opens for them could actually be a problem, even though we know that like harms deliverability. But yeah, people are starting to come around, which is good.
Yeah. So here is an offer from the Float tip, by the way, guys. Maybe Mitch, you can share more details about it, but it's only for the webinar attendees.
Yeah. So this is something, again, going back to offering. Now I've allocated some internal resource specifically for this webinar, where some of my team, and even myself included, would actually run a free outbound assessment, where we will actually take a peek under the hood of what you're doing at the moment, make some suggestions, and actually give you a look into how some of our campaigns look. We only have 8 free slots, and if you would like to apply for a slot, here's the link. We'd be really happy to see an application come in. I will try and be involved as many as I possibly can do. But yeah, it's a really valuable assessment. We've been doing a few over the past few weeks, and it's been really insightful. A lot of learnings going on, and yeah, a lot of insightful knowledge to brands that I've been applying.
I love it. So guys, don't worry if you feel like, oh, I cannot copy and paste this link. We're going to be sharing it later on LinkedIn. I think Ash already put it on LinkedIn, but you can find it later also on YouTube. So yeah, you'll be able to find this link later on. If not, you can always ping Mitch directly. Hey, how can I get this like free audit on how to improve my campaigns? Again, it's limited to only 8 spots. So first come, first serve, just so you guys know. All right, awesome. So once again, talking about the scaling, which I think is very important as you send more cold emails, because the more emails you send, the more replies you get, right? So you guys are pretty efficient, right? So how do you use any kind of automations? Like, do you use Zapier, Make, maybe any other like APIs? Like, how do you automate your processes? And also, how do you make sure that you keep your emails looking and feeling personal? So there are like 2 questions there. One is process, and another one is like automations as of outbound.
So if I was to speak about every automation that we've run in the business, I'd probably be here for a long time, because automations are like a huge part of our business, like huge. Our second ever staff member called Chris, our first ever staff member called Chris, he's a second team member, first external staff member. He manages this side of the business and is just absolutely obsessed with efficiency. I'm actually going to talk about just one automation which we have, which is kind of like, and this is an example of how we actually use Instantly and the new API which they've recently launched. So we've got our own internal database for every single lead that we send. So what we do is we basically got a mirror database that links up to Instantly. And this is via Instantly's recently upgraded API. And this helps us track a number of different things on our end. This helps us for reporting purposes. This helps our strategists dissect data better. It helps us when we're talking about, that send report. So if I have, let's say, 2,000 sends going out in a week from Instantly, all of this is automated into a report. And if that's under the threshold or over the threshold, we will have a report on a weekly basis. If the threshold is under by, let's say, a max like 20%, there's an internal conversation to say, hey, we need 20% more data going in this campaign where we're forecasting a bit under, and we have like a color code chart, which is like green, orange, or red. This is just one example of how we use an automation, how we use Instantly's API, which has been really good. As this develops as well on Instantly's end, there'll be more touch points that we can get from them. So this has already been developed quite a lot. It's developing by the month. The guys are doing a really good job of that. And the more data that we can ping into our database, the better that we can run campaigns, the better we can report to clients, because we don't give clients access to Instantly because we don't feel like that's an efficient way. Sometimes giving a client access to a campaign where someone says go away, it doesn't really benefit anyone. So we don't give clients access to that in a way. And what we like to try and do is package up the reporting to them in a bit more of a digestible way. We might give them, so you've had 100 responses, 30 interested, 20 referrals, XXX. It's a little bit easier for us to kind of on a monthly basis actually communicate to the client, how the campaign's performing.
Love it. Amazing. So what about using Instantly? Because you were just mentioning right now, some like new features of ours, like how you use Instantly's API to automate some of that process. So when it comes to using Instantly, what do you feel has helped you the most? And like, do you have any favorite features or workflows inside of Instantly?
Yeah, so we have so anytime there is a reply, we have Slack channels linked up to every single kind of reply that comes into Instantly. Now we all know the holy grail of responses are interested responses. So we've got 2 or 3 Slack channels which basically ping whenever there's an interested reply that comes in from Instantly. This just means that like you don't need to be living inside Instantly to track responses. Now this is a great channel because I often work outside of hours, as you can imagine. Now I wouldn't expect all of my team to do that, and it might be a time where it could be 7 p.m. and an interested reply comes in. And rather than asking a team member to book an appointment for a client, I might even just do it at that time. Now, I would only be notified for that because I have an automation which is linked up to a Slack channel. And yeah, that's always nice when you get, that interested reply channel just pings every kind of 5-10 minutes anyway. So that's a good feature. There is so many great features that Instantly do though, and I know that this is a partnership webinar, but I've tested so many tools in the market. I've worked with other tools for a long period of time. I think Float and Instantly have been working together for roughly about 2 to 3 years now, and I've really seen their platform go from where you guys used to be versus where you're at now. And you're consistently innovating, which is really, really good to see.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And honestly, we're here for a long-term game. So like all of this is possible thanks to people like yourself. You guys have been sharing very valuable feedback all the time, and we try to build and deliver based on that. And it's just mutual, I'm so happy to see how you guys have been growing and delivering nonstop. So yeah, it's just great. Like over the years, like how we're both just growing.
Yeah.
Like we just keep.
I still remember negotiating our first deal with you.
Yes, yeah. For those who are wondering, if you end up working with Mitch, you'll be in great hands because he's a really, really good negotiator. You can tell that he's a proper sales guy. He understands the sales process very well. Yeah, he negotiated with us like really good terms to scale with us. So yeah, very, very smart guy. All I can
Yeah.
say.
We'll pay you back in a long LTV.
Yeah, exactly. Long-term game. So here's a question from Mubashir. Do you have any strategy for the initial email? Like, do you feel like there are any differences from the initial, the second, and the third email? Maybe we can extend his question a little bit more. Do you have any framework that you follow? And actually, how many follow-ups do you usually send?
I like to do a maximum of 3. But it does depend. We might even have 4, but then that might be like a delayed follow-up. So that could be like a month follow-up or something like that to like just to circle back a conversation. We have a number of different like winning frameworks inside the business that I can't share a huge amount with right now, just because it's quite sensitive and a lot of like testing has gone to get to those points. One thing which I will say, which has been working very good, associating a value to an offer that you might be giving away, as free value, works very good in our learnings. So rather than saying, "Hey, we want to offer you a free audit," you could say, "We want to offer you a free audit that's usually worth $1,800." Even that switch there will make a difference in terms of response rates and engagement levels. So there's different ways. The way that I always think of what a great cold email should be like is, one, it needs to be really relevant to whoever you're reaching out to, but you are entering someone's inbox uninvited, so you better come with something good for them. You come with something valuable, which makes a positive impact into, and ultimately, it's easy to say yes to in a way. And that's what we try and work backwards from, like kind of that ethos. And there's lots of different ways how you could do that. You could do that in a really, really short way. You could do it in a slightly longer way. There's different ways, but that's kind of like the mindset that we're trying to work backwards from. Is our service relevant to someone? And what are we going to put in front of them which looks and sounds valuable and makes it easy for them to say yes?
Nice. Very, very interesting. Here is a question from Emil. I want to reward his question a little bit, so it's kind of more broad and usable for everyone. But he's asking that he's having issues creating an offer that fits the market demand for his niche. So how do you usually shape an offer? Like, is there any methodology that you use? Like maybe I will send this offer to 1,000 people and then I will see, or maybe like what is your strategy when you have to advise people on shaping their offer? Like, is there anything you evaluate that or do you maybe use ChatGPT to, I don't know, like start asking it questions? Like that's what I tell sometimes to people, like just start describing to ChatGPT with as much detail as possible what you do and who you're targeting, and then we'll come up with some ideas. Some other method I've heard in the past as well, and I use myself, is scraping, for example, online comments from a competitor, and then you ask it, okay, tell me all the things that people are complaining the most, and out of those complaints, you can like shape something that is very unique. So, is there any method that you recommend to people?
Yeah. So I think first of all, with an offer, I try to create offers which don't derail too much time to create the offer, as in like in the first place. Like for instance, if it takes 5 hours to create an audit or something like that, that's not very time efficient. So first of all, I'm working backwards from what time commitment am I actually happy to invest into a new prospect call, which is typically how I work backwards from offer creation. One question that we actually ask to every single client is, what does your sales process look like? Some clients might spend like 5 hours prep or 6 hours prep going into like a pitch or something. And I'm like, that's great. Let's just package this up in a slightly different way. Because you're actually putting in a lot of work here to prepare for this pitch. So I typically would just try and work backwards from your current sales process. Like, what are you doing right now? What does your sales funnel look like? And sometimes, how can we package that up in a slightly different way, which sounds more appealing in a way? It could be the difference of, rather than selling an audit, it could be a 3-part audit that's usually valued at £1,300 or something like that. And these are the things that you kind of A/B testing to kind of, to see what performs better in a way.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Love it. All right. Awesome. So last question. So what advice would you give to someone starting with a cold email agency today, or just starting with cold email, apart from the offer, or we can just reinforce the offer thingy, whatever you think is best. But
Yeah.
any recommendations would you give to someone starting with a cold email agency? Like if you were, for example, to travel back in time and start again, like what would you have done differently?
Yeah. So I would say at the minute it's more important than ever to like obsess over your craft, because again the barrier to entry is a lot higher than what it used to be. I actually think there's going to be a lot of people leaving the space in the next year, which I think is a good thing, because what that might be is the people that aren't really willing to put the effort in with with generating high performing campaigns. Gone are the days where you just build just a big Apollo list, blast it out, etc. That isn't going to really cut through the noise in this day and age. So what I would say is, if you're at the start, this is a great industry to get into. There's more content online than what there's ever been before. It's so easy to learn the game. You've just got to put the work in yourself, and you've got to really want to do it for yourself. Campaigns can be built now in so much more of like a creative manner than what they used to be. You can you can be really targeted, specific points about people, the technology they use, you've got certain trigger points. There's so much data on companies and individuals now. And yeah, it's really exciting. But again, like if you're at the start, be prepared to learn the craft, and enjoy it as well.
Yeah, sky's the limit. Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So once again, guys, don't forget to take Float's offer. They have been kind enough to share this. I think in dollars is around 4,500 worth offer, only reserved for 8 people, where they will audit your campaigns. Thank you once again, Mitch, for everything shared today. Is there anything else you would like to share with people, maybe?
Yeah, I just want to say, guys, it's I want to connect more with Instantly's community as much as possible. Connect with me on LinkedIn at Mitch Clayton. More than happy to kind of go through. If anyone's got any follow-up questions, I can answer them via DM. I really love this space. I love where it's going. I love the people who are leading the way, like Instantly. And yeah, like I said, it's a really exciting time for the space. And I'm very much a person who thinks there's more than enough for us to all go around. Whether you're a competitive agency, you want a companion to talk to about campaigns, etc. You just want to talk some shit sometime. it's all good. And yeah, I'd be more than happy to have chats with anyone.
Yeah, love it. On behalf of the Instantly team, Mitch, we wanted to thank you and your team for trusting us. We know you've been sending millions of emails with us and successfully getting replies and landing in the inbox. So we really appreciate your trust. And we're certain you will keep crushing in 2025 and the years to come. So once again, thanks for everything you shared today.
Cool. Thanks, Felipe. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.